Welcome, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to Grow Big TV. Today, we have as my co host is Corey Wannett, and we are interviewing Michael Whitman. Michael has been referred to as the Char Man. The Char Man. I love that. He's a founder
Our
of
man of the board.
Char Man of the board. He's the founder of Bluesky Biochar, a company dedicated from promoting sustainable soil health through biochar. Michael played a key role in organizing the first Earth Day in New York City, and that was around 1970. So, just wondering, let's start off with that. 1970, how did you start with Earth Day and promoting that? Like, because the environment around there, nobody was talking. Was anybody talking? I was just born in 1970.
I was 17. I was in high school, and I happened to be the one of the school photographers. That was my major, and I was walking through the hallway one day, and there was this little piece of paper, and it said looking for volunteers for this unique event, and a little tear off, and you tear that off, and you contact whoever it was, and I did, and I just was, helping out organizing and handing flyers out, getting people there. It was an amazing day. I didn't know that day had changed my life as much as it did because it was just right there and happening. But 300,000 people showed up for this Earth Day, and we marched down Fifth Avenue with Mayor Lindsay, who I happen to know because I worked on his campaign.
Hmm.
And it was astounding. Now, it was not a commercial event, it was strictly a message event. There are a few photos on my website on one of the pages from that day, and yeah, it was like amazing, and I realized that I was on that path my whole life, looking at environmental issues, looking at various things that we consider today to be conscious thought. And it was a very exciting day. And again, it took me a few years to realize exactly how it affected me, but I stuck with it the whole time.
So, welcome in. It's the Marshmallow Man and Jane Doe. There's going to be people coming in from a variety of places during this chat, from LinkedIn, from Twitter to YouTube, which is what we are on. So, what inspired you to focus on biochar as a sustainable solution?
Well, the time at 19 years ago when I first got turned on to it, I was totally intrigued by it. I was in the biofuel business, converting diesels to run on vegetable oil, doing biodiesel and such. And I met this guy at an Earth Day event, kind of accidentally, and we started talking. And one thing led to another, and he just blew me away with what he was doing with pyrolysis and creating biochar and other products from the pyrolysis, setup. And I started studying it. It wasn't a whole lot of information out there 19 years ago. And I started using it. I started making it. And then in 2010, I opened up Blue Sky Biochar and started selling biochar. And today, our website is what I would say is the most inclusive site for biochar and biochar related products. It's not just about the biochar. Most biochar companies sell just biochar. Well, our work is about creating a truly regenerative living soil. Now, we hear about regenerative living soils, we hear about living soil and all of this, but biochar is the key component to that. So, those of you that are not familiar with biochar and want to learn more, I would highly recommend you go to our website and go to the educational video page and watch as many as you can. There are many well produced videos. You're going to learn a lot very quickly. So,
So,
what was
here's the page right here. Let you guys know Blue Sky
yeah, up
Biochar.
here, yeah, where it says videos, you just click on that and go to the educational. This particular one, there's a number of different ones on there. The one on living soil. There's one on what is called bamboo vinegar, which is basically wood vinegar. It's a co-product of making biochar. So we highly recommend checking that out. But in the meantime, um, biochar is charcoal suitable for soil. And what biochar is it's not what it is not. It is not a food. It is not a fertilizer. It's an amendment. So it's just the carbon structure. So when we carbonize the wood or the material, the feedstock we're making the biochar from, we pyrolyze it with indirect heat without oxygen. Wood burns twice. First, it burns to charcoal. And if you continue to burn it with the presence of oxygen, it'll just go to ash. If you eliminate the oxygen, it stays in that carbonous state. Biochar is the management system of soil. Nature has been making it for 500 million years. Humans have been making it for 8,000 years. We know this through carbon dating. We don't know a whole lot about that particular group of people who did it, but we know they were doing it. The most famous, of course, is the Amazonians, the Terra Preta de Indio, which
Yeah.
is the dark soil of the indigenous. And I've studied this really intricately, and it's really an amazing story. Don't think we have enough time to go into it all today, but I'm sure those of you out there can look up Terra Preta and learn more about what that society had created over a 3,000 year period.
Amazing what they did during that time, not realizing they even were doing it.
Well, I'm going to just stop real quick here. There's three things that inspire me and move me forward in my work. The first is biomimicry, mimicking nature. The second is indigenous practice, because they were the greatest biomimickers of all. And the third part is the understanding and the study of fire and its importance and necessity in the ecosystem. Of course, we don't want our homes and businesses to burn down. So we use biochar, make it in a clean way, bring it into our urban and suburban areas, and utilize it along with wood vinegar, which we're going to talk about, extremely important, equally as important as biochar. And we use it in these areas and mimic nature without having to have the fire. So we can get the aspects of the positive things from what indigenous peoples have done, how we learn from biomimicry, and also from our basic understanding of the biochar and how it works. So once again, it is the management system of soil. It manages our water. Biochar can hold up to 7 times its weight in water. So you can picture this. You got all these little granules, because we want to use it in a granular size. All these little granules of biochar mixed into the root zone. The water will be like a little reservoir that they can hold there. The nutrients in our soil column. During rain events and irrigation events, we lose a lot to runoff. Biochar, with proper protocols used, can reduce that runoff up to 80%. So we've got a reservoir of water and a warehouse full of nutrients. The root system's attached to the biochar. And that's how the whole magic starts to happen. My excitement about biochar is if you look at the pore structure under a microscope, it's very porous and all the nooks and crannies. And I look at that as a luxury condo for the microbiology, both bacterial, fungal, and everything that moves into the structure and totally expands the colonies of microbiology. Biochar is a fixed carbon. We're always talking about putting carbon in our soil. We're usually talking about compost, worm castings, and similar things like that. This is the fixed carbon, and it has a lifespan of many thousands of years. Sounds like, wow, how could that be? It just is. We know this through scientific research. We know it through the research we've done with the different indigenous peoples of the world that did it. And what's interesting is the indigenous peoples of the Brazilian area, the Terra Preta area, they weren't the only people in the world doing this. Many cultures were doing this, different scales, and they never had any contact with each other. It was just a natural thing that people witnessed how the biochar worked and how it was doing this and how it was doing that. Raw biochar is not usually, we don't consider raw biochar ready to use. We do want to inoculate it with nutrients and biology before we put it in the soil, so it doesn't rob it from the soil initially for a period of time before it starts giving back out again. So we got a warehouse of nutrients, a reservoir of water, a luxury condo for the microbiology, a fixed carbon that's going to be there, and it is carbon negative 3-to-1. Simply put, every pound that we put into the ground, we have prevented and sequestered 3 pounds of carbon gases from going in the atmosphere. This is absolutely known. It's scientifically proven. But what I have hypothesized is that you're using biochar. You're getting that 3-to-1 negative. Now you're using less water. You're using less fertilizer or inputs into the soil. So your carbon footprint is going even lower.
Right.
When the biochar and everything that we've done into the soil starts really kicking in, it is a carbon sink as well. So there's a number of aspects where you can really go below 3-to-1, further, 5-to-1, 6-to-1 negative. But that's for as far as our conversation, biochar is considered 3-to-1 carbon negative. But you can go lower if you choose to, or if you do it right and do enough of it. There's another aspect of biochar that's really fascinating, and that is biochar has an electrical charge. And the microbiology loves that.
Mhm.
So there's that attractiveness of microbiology to the biochar because of that electrical charge. We can't get into this today, but there is something to the natural electrical charge that the earth has and the plants react to.
Mhm.
Biochar enhances that.
That's interesting because nobody ever told me about the electrical charge. You're the first person that told me that. I never heard of that.
Well,
I
I
heard
learned it
everything
from my
else, but that was the first time. That's that. It's like, whoa, this is so cool.
yeah, it is. It is. I learned that from Kelpie Wilson. She's one of my dear
Oh,
friends. Kelpie is one of the leaders in the biochar community worldwide, one of the founders of yes. Now, everybody should buy this book. This is the book. There's a few others. This book, over all of them, other than the other book I would also recommend, is called Burn
mhm.
Using Fire to Cool the Earth by Albert Bates and Kathleen Draper, two of my dear friends and colleagues. And those two books will really give you everything you need to know. I like Kelpie's book because it's a little more updated. The other one is about 5 years old, even though it's still relevant. Kelpie's is a real hands-on kind of book where it
Kelpie's
has
awesome.
protocols and other
Kelpie's
stuff. Yeah, Kelpie's, she's pretty amazing. I
she's so
consider her
amazing to
like my
talk to.
sister. She's like a sister to me. We know each other and love each other very well. I, I
When
have
I,
I have a very large family and friends in the biochar community worldwide, and I just love it. I'm communicating with people all the time. Um, I do a lot of my work here in Southern California. I have a large client base that I work with to create these living soils. Now, I wanted to go a little bit further with this living soil thing and talk about what are the end results? What can we expect to see? Well, obviously, we're going to get a really rich, beautiful biological soil. We're going to get water holding power, nutrient holding power, microbiology holding power, that electrical charge, and all that. But once we build our living soil, and in my workshops that I do, I have a kind of a 3-step program, kind of. The first step is to create the living soil, build it. Now, in some cases, normally I'm a no-till person, but sometimes for the first time we have to affect an area, we do have to till. We've got to get that biochar and all that organic matter and all the rock dust and other things into that soil column. But after that, there's no more tilling.
like into the roots. You got to get it into the roots.
Down into the root zone down below. Biochar is not a top application. If you top applied it, it's going to take an awful long time for it to get down there before it really starts doing its job. So it does need to be put into the soil. So we build this regenerative living soil with our base soil, biochar, compost, worm castings, rock dust, mycorrhizae, a few other things. Once we get that soil built, get our plants in, plants and trees in, we cover with mulch. That's the first step. The second step is maintaining that living soil with applications of compost, worm castings, rock dust on the top if necessary. But I also go one step further and I do what I call liquid drenching or fertigation with nutrients and biology around the plants after I've got them planted. So my maintenance is both a top application of organic matter and a drenching or fertigation of the plants around that periodically. The third step is foliar application. I'm a big believer in foliar application. It's very important. The most people aren't aware of this, but the leaves of our plants and trees is the factory. Down below is the supply chain bringing water and nutrients up, photosynthesis converting that into sugars and carbs, going back down to feed the root systems and the microbiology in the soil. So it's a two-way street. We want to open that up to a two-way highway. So by doing foliar applications with nutrients and biology, we're feeding from below and from above. When we do this in this manner, something interesting starts to occur. The Brix level, BRIX, the sugar content of the plant or the tree, rises. Now, again, most people aren't aware of what sugar content or Brix is. We test it with a tool called the refractometer. I'm sorry I don't have one here with me.
I got one.
I left mine in the office yesterday. But the refractometer is a simple little tool that uses a light and prism. We take 2 drops of either the juice from the fruit or sap from the leaves, put it on there, look through, and it tells us our immediate Brix level. When we get our Brix level up, now most people, I go in their homes and I bring my refractometer and I'll test. Most people are below 10. And we really want to get up to 13.
Mhm.
When we get our Brix level on our plants and trees up to 13, there is no no insect that will chew on that plant because it has very high complex carbohydrates. Diseases will not form.
Mhm.
But what's really cool is that the nutrient density of that food goes way up. And nutrient density, for those of you who follow what it's about, for the last 40 years has been sliding down. Even the best organic markets and farmers markets and farms have low Brix levels because they're concentrating on keeping their certification, doing this, doing that. They're not necessarily doing all the steps to create this regenerative living soil that will raise that Brix level, that will raise that nutrient density. So that's a really key part of what I do. Is it's like a blood test. It's a simple test, easy to do. We want to be able to do that with like at the peak time of photosynthesis. We want to do it not just to the fruit, but to the leaf as well, because there will be a difference. For instance, I was at a home a few days ago where the oranges and the citrus is all up to 14. And I was very impressed that this guy had 14 because he wasn't amending very much. But the leaves didn't. The fruit was starting to ripen a little bit, so the sugar content rose a bit. So you do have to check both the leaf and the fruit and determine the difference between that.
Michael,
We have
Mike,
yes,
would it make hot peppers hotter?
it possibly could. What makes hot peppers hotter, by the way, is your watering pattern more than anything. If you cut back on your water at a certain point with your peppers, they're going to get hotter. The more water you put to your peppers, the less hot they will be. So if you really want to heat them up at a certain point in their growth stage, but before you're harvesting, you want to just cut the water down as much as you can, and they will start to get hotter. I will tell you that definitely happens.
Yeah,
So,
we have Jimmy Pickles is here. He's one of the owners of one of the hottest peppers on earth.
oh,
So he's on our line. That's the reason why I asked. I'm like, oh, we're talking about the Brix levels. How about like hot peppers? You got the hot pepper guru here. So it's like, thank you, Jimmy, for coming on in. I appreciate it.
well, I was at a tomato tasting, about 9 months ago. And the friend of mine who was running it, he had 21 different tomatoes that he grew. And this was at an Anawalt hardware store in West LA. There must have been about 60 people waiting online to taste the 21 tomatoes. And I asked my friend Steve if I can test the Brix level on each one. He goes, yeah, sure, go ahead. So I took the chart that they give to each person for the tasting, and next to it, they would write like what they liked about it. I just wrote what the Brix number was. I was pretty surprised that only one got to 10. Most of them were not there. They were at 4, 6, 7, but one of them was at 10, and that was the one that everybody picked as the ideal tomato of that tasting. So the more bricks you have, the much better that tomato is going to taste. So if you're tasting tomatoes that just like, the Brix level is not that high. That meant that the immunity to the plant was lower, susceptible to disease and insects, and the nutrient density is not there. Now, refractometers or testing bricks is done by beekeepers, winemakers, beer makers. I have a friend who was an executive chef at UCLA, and before he retired, I used to go down there and visit him. And one day we were standing around in the kitchen, and somebody tapped on his shoulder and said, "Chef, the order just came in from the market." So we go out to the loading dock, and there's this giant crate of lemons and a giant crate of tomatoes.
Hmm.
And he pulls out his refractometer and his little pocket knife, and he slices a tomato, puts a few drops on there, looks into it, and says to the delivery guy, who he knew, he said, "Your boss knows that I will not accept this kind of Brix level." So he sent the whole crate of tomatoes back and the whole crate of lemons back. That's how picky this guy was. So it's a tool that's used by other industries and a valuable tool for us. So one of the issues that I found that about 9 years ago, I've been testing bricks for 15 years. 9 years ago, I went up to a cannabis grower up in Ojai who I was working with, and he said, "Bring your refractometer. I want to test my bricks and my cannabis." And I said, "Sure." So I get up there, we delivered all the stuff, gave him some protocols, and then we pulled some leaves. And we're looking and going, all right, how do we get the sap out of this? So we took a mortar and pestle, mush, took a garlic press, nothing happened. And I told him, I got to go and figure out how to do this. So I found two things that helped a lot. One was a five-bladed stainless steel shredding scissor that we use for cutting up herbs.
Okay.
Helps to break up the sap, or the structure of the leaf. And then I take that shredded material and put it into this little press. It's a round press, about 2-3 inches long, about an inch in diameter, with a little T handle that has a piston going in and out. You fill that up, you put the cap on with little holes in it, and you squeeze and squeeze and squeeze until 2 drops come out, put it on, and you can do the test. It's the only thing I found that works. So I put together a bricks testing kit with the shear, with the press, with the refractometer, and all of the instructions and charts are all laminated, so you can take them out into the garden and not have them get deteriorated. It is a fantastic kit. It's $139. You got everything you need, and it's really, really there. It took me a few years to develop it, but now we sell a lot of them because a lot of people are very interested in knowing what their bricks level is. They're doing all this work. They're going through all these movements and changes. And this is what I would consider one of the best tests of where you're at. When you know your bricks level is low, you know what you can do. You start working on that living soil. You start maintaining it properly and do foliar applications, and you're going to raise your bricks level.
Now, do you test with your microscope too? Do you do your?
I don't do a lot of microscope work. That's of course something very big on Matt's agenda. I don't have time to do all that. I'm running my business. I'm running my home. My wife works 7 days a week, so I'm, mostly taking care of stuff. Yeah, this is it. And the original book that he did, the regenerative soil book, which I helped some of the work on that. There you go. This is a really fine book if you're interested in going to microscopy. I always say that wrong.
Do you use anything else in combination with the biochar to raise the bricks levels?
Well, as I said, in the living soil method, it's a lot of organic matter, compost, worm castings, rock dust, mycorrhizae. I keep saying rock dust, and I'm wondering people understand what I'm saying. Some do, some don't. Minerals are the building block of cell structure for all life on Earth. They're essential. The microbiology in the soil needs them. The root systems need them. So most people are not properly mineralizing their soils. So many years ago, I started working with a friend of mine who is a researcher in the Midwest, David Yarrow. And David was starting to blend different rock dust materials together to make more of a broad spectrum complex rock dust. and the results were fantastic. I mean, between using just plain old azomite or basalt or granite or any of the many leonardite or many of them, by combining them in certain proportion, we get a lot more broad spectrum and a lot more effect to the soil and the plants out of it. So over the years, I've developed a product that first started out with 7 different mineral complexes, then went to 9, 11, 13. This last batch only has 12 because one of the ingredients was very hard to get and very expensive. So we blend it all together, and it's called our Bluesky Complex Rock Dust Blend. Now, it's not an inexpensive product. It's not meant for landscaping. It's not meant for broad, giant areas. It's meant for your garden. You got a fairly small garden, you can easily afford to do it. But when you're talking about large scale, this is, you would want to use just a simple azomite or something else on the large scale. But when you're growing food in raised beds, potted plants, or whatever method you're doing, the complex rock dust blend is far more superior to just using a singular one. And yeah, so rock dust is a very important part of it. And rock dust can be applied topically and watered in. But generally, again, just like the other ingredients, you really want to get that down into the root zone. That's where all the action is happening. So
Now,
when
how long does azomite take to break down? Because I heard it takes over a year to break down to make it useful.
well, it depends on the sizing of it. We use the ultrafine powder. It is a slow time release, but it starts working fairly quickly and then can go for up to a year. So, and now in our rock dust blend, there are some ingredients that get eaten up a little faster and some that go a lot longer.
Hmm.
So it's a little bit, they're not all breaking down at the exact same time, and some of them are hanging around longer and release on a much slower basis.
But when you're adding to your biochar, it just keeps it right there, right into your.
Interestingly enough, a great part of the new research in biochar is happening is during the pyrolysis process, the material, let's just say it's wood chips for this conversation. If you were to coat those wood chips before they got into the system with bentonite clay, diatomaceous earth, or other silicate-like minerals, during that process, they fuse onto the biochar. And the results have been incredible for a number of industries. First off, with food or with soil, it just takes that biochar to another level. This is all fairly new. I was exposed to it a year and a half ago at the Biochar conference in Sacramento, a year ago, February, and that was a hot topic. All the people, the movers and shakers, were going to those classes to learn about that. So we make biochar in small ways. The biochar I sell, I do not make. I can't make enough for what I sell. So when I do it for experiments, so we're doing in the next month or so, we're going to be doing an experiment where we have this. It's basically a kiln, a giant kiln built specifically to test biochar, make it and test it. And so we're using what we call a retort, which is a sealed container with some holes in it. We put it's a 1 gallon unused paint can.
Oh, okay.
Put 5 1/8-inch holes in the bottom, fill it with your material, whatever you want to make from, and you can either put that into your fireplace, your fire pit, or into one of these pyrolysis ovens. So there's no air inside, so everything carbonizes. And during the carbonization process, all the organic matter in the wood, little gas vents come out of those holes in the bottom of the can like little flames. And when it's carbonized, when the flame goes away, all the gases have been released, and you've got your biochar. So we're throwing in some diatomaceous earth and bentonite clay into that, mixing it all up, and then carbonizing it. And incredible results that we have seen from the testing that's being done, and my colleagues around the world doing this. Pretty amazing.
So Michael,
yeah,
okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go, please.
Now, not all biochar is the same, right? So some people just think I'm going to throw wood all wood together, just burn it, water it. Oh, I made biochar.
Hmm.
So, what are some of the misconceptions or what people are doing wrong how to make biochar?
I
I,
got
I
it.
want people that think you just
Yeah.
burn some wood, oh, put it all in the garden. Hey, look, I made biochar. Look at that. This is awesome.
Well, we as humans make biochar way better than nature does. Nature's been making it for 500 million years, and guess what? It's been working because nature's not in a hurry. Everything is extremely slow with nature. When a natural fire occurs, that biochar is sitting on the surface for decades before it really gets down there. Interesting enough, what's happening in the meantime? Organic matter falling upon it over each season, decomposing. Nature has been composting its biochar from the very beginning. And that's another avenue we're going to talk about in a minute or so. If somebody reminds me, talk about composting with biochar, which we'll get into.
Mhm.
But what is biochar? That piece of wood is fully carbonized. There's no organic matter left in it. It's just the pure carbon skeleton of what it originally was. That's biochar, fully carbonized. When you do a fire in a fire pit or in your fireplace, you get a lot of ash because there's so much oxygen. You're not depriving the oxygen, so you get a lot of ash. But any of that charcoal, some of it is fully carbonized, some of it's not. We call that turrified when there's still organic matter left in it. And is it useful? Yeah, over time it can be workable if you put it in the soil. But when you fully carbonize the biochar, it will be much more efficient in the soil, much better in the soil. Also, you know, when you get down to the real study in the scientific, you know, area, there's differences between different wood stocks, like feedstocks, like hardwoods and softwoods and bamboo and grasses and leaves, and they can all make biochar. But we really want to use our biochar in a granular form from 1 to 10 millimeters. So basically 10 millimeter or less. Now, if you use anything bigger, there's nothing wrong with it except the fact that the interior of that big piece is not being affected. You're not getting all that surface area because everything can't get deep in there. So that's why we want it granularized so that we get full use of all of the material. Whereas a big chunk, the middle of it is not working. We're wasting that big middle, that stuff in the middle there, if you understand what I mean. So
You
we
make
want it in
that
a granular form.
before you chop it up or before you burn it?
No, after you've made it.
Oh, after you made it.
Yeah. Now, when you're making biochar with wood materials, they're going to usually be chips and chunks that go through there. So now when it's done, you can break that down into granular form. Whereas you're doing leaves or grasses or things on that order, they just break down to pure fine powder. There's nothing wrong with that fine powder. However, because this is just a structure, when that structure gets really, really teeny, it loses some of its water, nutrient, and microbiology holding abilities. Doesn't mean there's nothing wrong, that there's something wrong with it. Just loses a little bit. So we prefer to be in that granular size. But don't be afraid of the powder. There's nothing wrong with it whatsoever. Just our most efficiency in surface area and other aspects is in that granular form.
So when when I first got into gardening, when I first started researching biochar, a lot of people were like, "Oh, if you don't do it right, you're going to rob the nutrients out of your soil." So I sort of shied away from it. So
Well, I think what they were referring to is putting raw biochar in the soil.
okay,
Again, remember, raw biochar in nature sits on the surface for a long enough time that organic matter inoculates it, or charges it, or whatever aspect you want to say, to whatever word your term you want to use. Um, so we definitely want to inoculate with nutrients in biology. By the way, it's also conditioning it. So raw biochar, just for everybody's knowledge, there's certain things that we need to do to the raw biochar before we consider it ready to use. And adding nutrients in biology is important, but it's not the first thing. Raw biochar is hydrophobic, does not like water. Inside the pore structure, the surface tension's so high, it's literally pushing the water out. You want to turn it into hydrophilic, loving water, as opposed to hydrophobic, not liking water. So that's the first thing. Easy to fix. We compost it. That fixes it. Or we can do a liquid drenching to fix that with something that will break that surface tension, like a surfactant, or even the wood vinegar. So first thing, we want to go from hydrophobic to hydrophilic. The second thing is we want to lower the pH of the biochar. Now, this is a big misunderstood thought pattern about biochar and its pH. Mostly all biochar is 8 and higher, sometimes 10 and 11. It is not a buffer that will change very much at all about your pH in your soil. It's a very weak buffer. But the reason we want that pH in the biochar down is that's when the microbiology likes to move in. So we want to lower it. So we want to go hydrophilic. We want to lower the pH. The third one is the ash content. Depending upon how you're making it, you may have some ash in there. We do not want the ash. The ash will definitely raise your pH. It'll lime your soil. There you go. EM1, love that stuff. I sell a lot of that. So, if we have ash content, or if you're not even sure, just wash your biochar before you start processing it and working with it. The fourth thing that we want to fix in the biochar is that the VOCs, the volatile organic compounds, they may be present. Now remember, they are volatile, they will volatilize out, but we want to try to reduce them as much as possible before we use that biochar. Now, after you've done those four things, now adding nutrients and biology to it is important, but most people don't understand that the other four things got to be done first. The conditioning before the inoculation. I hope that's kind of understood.
So there's a question here by Riverdale Gardens. Do you see it on your site? On your So the question is, I make charcoal, everything. I have campfire using whatever wood chips or branches available, and add it to a compost pile. I often add bones from dinner. Is this wise?
Yes. Yes. Bone char is good stuff, man. I say we don't eat a lot of, meats and things that have bones. But when we do, we save them, and then I will char them, and we can get some great stuff out of bone char. So yes, you can char mostly any organic matter, pretty much. But yes, bones are quite good.
So Lynn asked a question too. I guess if she has leaves, can she use full leaves in her container to grow stuff like tomatoes with the biochar?
Yes, you can. Generally, I would take the leaves and compost them, and then use that, with the biochar. If you put that raw stuff in, there's nothing wrong with it. Many times when I do potted plants, or I'm going to do a raised bed. Okay, do you know what hugel culture is?
Yeah.
So those of you that know about hugel culture, it's a technique that mimics nature.
Mm-hmm.
So in nature, when a giant tree falls in the forest and lays there, as it decomposes, it creates a hotbed for mycorrhizae fungal. I mean, it's alive with microbiology, and all kinds of things start growing out of it. So what we do in hugel culture is we create a swale, line it with cardboard, start laying in leaves, twigs, wood limbs, until we get the really big stuff. And we're putting biochar in there. And we're basically creating this incredible environment for microbiology. I say this because some people I've noticed have been in the bottom of their raised beds, been putting old dried wood in there and leaves and stuff. And I think that's a great idea. It's called, well, I call it pseudo hugel. It's not a true hugel mound, but it is part of what hugel is about. So I would take those leaves and put them in the bottom of the bed, or compost them. How do you remove VOCs that can't be washed out? Like, can they be washed out? They're volatile. They sort of can be washed out. They more volatilize out. During My favorite way of getting biochar ready to go or inoculated and ready to use is to compost it, put it in the composting process, because the win on the compost and biochar side is significant. So when we put biochar, and the percentage you put in there depends on what you want to achieve. An example would be I do about 15-20% by volume. So 15 to 20% biochar to, let's say, 80 to 85% of my compost materials. If I were, and the reason I do that process and not more biochar in there is because I already have biochar in my soils. So I don't have to put as much down when I'm laying compost. And I lay compost down all the time. I mean, 4, 5, 6 times a year, I'm putting compost out. Some people do it once a year. I like doing it regularly. What is compost? Besides all the nutrients and biology it provides, it's your next generation of soil. It's how nature makes soil, through decomposition. So I'm sorry. I hope I answered that question, but let's see here. Both in history and today.
So that was just was a comment to from Robert Doolittle, which is awesome. Welcome, Robert, to the channel. I appreciate it. This is awesome. So we're gonna.
So we're talking about building bricks here, I guess, is what I see, and it's very interesting because one of my dear friends is a cob expert. And anybody know what cob is? If you don't know what,
No, I don't. Go ahead.
So it's a combination of clay, sand, and straw.
Oh, okay.
So it's a natural building process. We're incorporating biochar into it because it strengthens it. Sound barrier. It balances out the moisture, so things don't start to funky out in the cob. So there's a number of different aspects to it. That we're using biochar in cement. We're using it in paint. We're using it in plaster, in adobe. I mean, there's just so many different reasons for using it. But yes, building blocks is a great way to utilize biochar.
So, Michael, I want to go to your site, and so you could promote anything you want on it, which is important. Products. We're going to go to products, soil amendments, and foliar products. What do we have here? There we are.
Okay, so we have, as you can see there, we have a few different kinds of biochar. We've got that first one there, which is being discontinued. It comes from China. We brought it in several years back. It's a very good biochar, but it's very expensive, especially now with all the tariffs. And the Chinese made a lot of mistakes in packaging. We had so much problems with them. So we have eliminated or stopped dealing with the Chinese almost 2 years ago. So the Sikh bamboo biochar, I've got like a few small bags left. That's it. Then we're going to take it off. The next one is our main product, the raw organic biochar in a granular form. The next one is the same product, but in a micronized form. The next one is the same biochar, but this is a blend that my friend makes. It's 80% biochar, 20% worm castings, and it's hydrated with a liquid extract from worm castings. Very good product, a top seller. We do have a new product that we developed, a new biochar product that is like the ultimate. It's not on the site yet. We're still working on a name. We're either going to call it Ultimate or Platinum. We're not sure yet. So what this product is and how it's different than mostly everything I've seen is we take that raw biochar, put it into our mixing machine, and then we hydrate it with a concentrate worm casting extract, fish kelp formula, humic acid, EM1, molasses, wood vinegar, and a concentrate water-soluble mycorrhizae. So we hydrate that biochar. Then we take that hydrated biochar, blend it with a premium worm casting that my friend makes nearby, our custom compost, rock dust, and another granular mycorrhizae, blend all that together. This is an amazing product. We started making it for our landscape customers a few years ago because they wanted something really broad spectrum. But when we first started working with them, we take all the ingredients to the job site, and in each hole or each ditch or whatever, we'd add the 7, 8, 9 different things, and it started getting a little difficult. And I was paid to be there to advise them how to do it. Well, these guys couldn't remember from day to day what to do. So I had to come back, and I couldn't charge them again. They're good clients. So I talked to them, and we decided that for a few extra bucks, we'll blend it all together for them and bag it up.
Mhm.
And they said, no problem. This product sells for $75 a bag. It's a little over a cubic foot, but it
Mhm.
is the most incredible, most diverse or complex, broad spectrum biochar product I've ever seen anywhere.
Now,
We
how would
would
you add it to your garden or your plants?
just blend it in with the soil, just till it in as much as you can, at least 6 inches
Yeah,
down
to
in the
your,
soil.
for your roots.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. It's a really crazy product that it's a lot of work doing it because we have to work with with this big mixing machine, a forklift to bring everything up and around, and yeah. So that's our latest product, which is not on there. There's the complex rock dust blend next to the superchar, the worm castings. Now, wood vinegar. Let's talk about this for a minute because we cannot end this program without talking about that. Wood vinegar is a co-product of making biochar, not a byproduct, not a waste product. It's an equal value product that we use for foliar spraying, for conditioning biochar. There's a whole lot of uses for it. So in Asia, they normally call it bamboo vinegar because they make it from bamboo. Here we make it from wood, particularly hardwood. So we just call it wood vinegar. They're both very much the same thing. So for years we were selling the Sikh bamboo vinegar from China, and good product, did great, except price kept going up. The bottles were leaking. We got 3,000 bottle order in. Half of them leaked. A post office back east called us up screaming at us because it leaked all over the place. It smelled like a barbecue in there because it's a wood, it's basically liquid smoke in a way. So we basically found this new product made here in America, less expensive, and it turns out it's got 20% more organic compounds than the previous one from China. So we ended up with a better product made here with more organic compounds. So what do we use wood vinegar for? It's used for pest control. It is not an insecticide. It doesn't wipe out the colony, but that smoky smell that it leaves behind, and you don't smell it very long after it's there, the insects just avoid that. Powdery mildew, one of the most common things, particularly indoor growing, but also outdoor, a thing of the past with wood vinegar. You spray the plants from an early stage, they'll never get powdery mildew. So what it is we use it for insect issues, we use it for fungal issues or other disease issues. But unlike apple cider vinegar or white vinegar, which are simple fermented vinegars, this is pyroligneous acid. It's smoke condensed into a liquid form. It has hundreds of organic compounds that plants thrive on, and it stimulates photosynthesis. Very low cost to use,
Mhm.
very simple to use. We use it in soil drenching. We use it in foliar spray. One of my favorite things is we take the wood vinegar, dilute it down into water, and we soak our seeds before germination. The percentage of seeds that germinate is very, very high. They will come up earlier and healthier in their initial stages.
Mhm.
My garlic will come up 1 to 2 weeks earlier and really hardy out of the ground than when I don't do that soaking.
Now, would that
So
really help with hot pepper seeds? Because hot peppers take a longer time to germinate than your regular
it
sweet
will
peppers.
advance the germination time initially, but mostly it provides those organic compounds that the plants will need in those early stages. Now, let's talk for a moment about how this fits into nature. So we know biochar comes from the wood that was burned, left behind by nature.
Mhm.
And what does fire do? Well, it cleans up excess plants. So when a fire comes through naturally, nature uses it to balance out so there aren't too many plants growing per acre because there's only so much water per acre, and nature knows how to balance that out. Fire is that tool that it uses. One thing that's not talked about, and I have talked to scientists and researchers, arborists, and the smoke from the fire is as important as the fire, because the smoke covers everything with that sticky residue. Literally everything in the path of the smoke is covered with that thin little sticky residue. Basically, it's the wood vinegar.
Hmm.
So during a fire event, many plants and trees put their seeds out during the fire event. They're only stimulated through smoke and fire to put those seeds out. So here we have those seeds popping, laying everywhere, smoke coming, coating them. Nature's been doing this process since the beginning. So we can do it very simply with the wood vinegar.
It's
Now,
absolutely
both
amazing.
biochar and wood vinegar are also very important in health and beauty. Charcoal is the oldest human remedy in existence. Before there was anything natural remedies at all, it was charcoal that humans were eating. Animals also have been eating charcoal after fire since animals roamed on Earth. They
Hmm.
naturally gravitate to it. So the whole area of animal husbandry and biochar and wood vinegar, too much to get into now, but very, very exciting. Very exciting. So the wood vinegar, we use it as a foliar spray. And we're diluting it anywhere from 1 to 1,000 to as strong as 1 to 50, which is not that common. We're usually using quarter ounce, half ounce, kind of per gallon of water. Those of you that do foliar spraying, I'm not sure if you use surfactants in your foliar spraying, but I find it to be very important. A surfactant breaks surface tension. And an example would be you take water and spray it onto your citrus leaves. What happens? It beads up and rolls right off. The surface tension on the leaf is high and it pushes the water away. Soap is a surfactant. It breaks surface tension. I don't use soaps in my foliar anymore. I use yucca. Yucca is one of the best natural surfactants out there. The particular one we use is Yucca Wet by GS Plants. Phenomenal product. It's a natural surfactant. So when you spray that wood vinegar or any water-based spray onto your plants with a surfactant, it breaks the surface tension and allows it to adhere more evenly across the leaf. So we're using, we have this formula sheet that when people buy certain products from us, we give them that. It's a laminated sheet. And basically it's a formula how to inoculate raw biochar, how to do soil drenching, and how to do foliar spray. And it lists the different items and various techniques of how to do it. It's pretty simple. But we always do our foliar spray the latest part of the day before the sun goes down. Find it to be the best part. That seems to be pretty consensus across the board with everybody.
I love that because just the powdery mildew issues and sticking with the leaf, on the leaves and spreading and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, I have cannabis growers that just go crazy for this stuff. Wood vinegar is the perfect cure for powdery mildew. And you start when the plant is still fairly small and just do it periodically, along with whatever nutrients and biology you want to add to it. I believe that the more complex and broad spectrum you do, the more you get out of it. Yeah, there's the Yucca Wet. Great, great product. We sell a lot of this product, and we use a lot of it. In our soil drenching, by putting a surfactant in your soil drenching, most people's soil is hydrophobic. And it's easy to tell. You put some water, on the top of the soil, and it doesn't just absorb in, it kind of beads up and starts rolling around because the surface tension is so high, the water can't absorb. By putting the surfactant in there, it breaks that surface tension and allows that liquid to permeate through the soil column, not just bead up and roll off. So I'm using surfactants, this one, the only one I use now, in my soil drenching. I use it in my foliar spraying and occasionally for other purposes, but those are the two key things that I use it for. And
Now,
as you can see, yeah,
how
go
often
ahead.
do you use your Ocean Magic Sea minerals? Do you put them in?
Well, that's a good question because it's a brand new product. In fact, it hasn't even hit our warehouse yet, but we put it up a few days ago. I've been looking for a liquid mineral product because I use a lot of different stuff, but sometimes it's easier to use a liquid in your soil drenching, and so I picked this product up. I know it's good because friends have been telling me about it. The manufacturer, it's one of his original products from 30 years ago. I talk with this guy all the time. And so it's a fairly new product for us. But it will be included in our formula sheet. We're going to rewrite the formula sheet and add this in I'm not going to use it in my foliar spray because it's really more for the soil. But I will use it in all my soil drenching or fertigations.
Is that similar to like C90?
Yes, very much like it. I think it was around before C90.
Right.
C90 is a very good product. There's a lot of stuff that went on with the manufacturer. The original guy sold it, and I don't really know the politics or what's going on with it now, but I hearing rumblings from people like, what's going on with C90? I can't seem to find it. Oh, it's out there, but we used to use C90 in our mineral blend. We used the granular and we put it in our mineral blend, and we did it the last time, but we're not going to do it anymore. It's too expensive. Even buying it in bulk, the shipping is ridiculous.
When you talk about using these products to soak the soil, what exactly are you doing? Like just
Well, whatever the ingredients, whatever the instructions on the product listing, it's usually 1 ounce per gallon.
Mhm.
And we're mixing it together with all the things, and then we're doing a soil drenching, and you can do it with a watering can. I do it with a portable electric Milwaukee pump where I fill up 5-gallon water jugs with water, and then I put all my ingredients in there. Then we set them out on the property. I just did a massive soil drenching on Thursday down in Los Angeles at this really cool house, man. I mean, I'd live in the pool house. That's how cool it was. A pool house, a guest house, and then this giant mansion. Anyway, the landscaping job was probably about $2 million. It's
Wow.
pretty big. It's my main client. So we were doing the drenching. So we take these 5-gallon water jugs, from the cooler. We fill them up with water, put all our ingredients in there, set them out along the property. And then I take this hose from my little portable hand pump that I walk around with, and Milwaukee makes this great pump. Put the 3-foot one into the 5-gallon thing, and the other one's 50 feet, and I just walk around and fertigate. Now, for a big job, you need to do that. Some people use giant tank on a little trailer with a 200-foot hose and pump it in that way. Whatever way you get it in there, it depends on the size of the project. So, but for an ordinary home gardeners, you could just use a watering can and water it in. And you don't need to go right next to the plant. You want to go a little further away. Okay, I walk into projects all the time where I see the brown drip hose so close to the trunk of a tree that's been there for 3 or 4 years, and I go, oh, get that thing further out. The water that the root systems that are taking in that water are further out in the drip zone than right up against the so we want to do it and encourage the roots to continually move out. So we're always moving what we're putting down a little further out as the tree gets a little older. We want to encourage the root systems to keep moving out, out, out. Whereas if you only water and fertigate and fertilize at the base of the plant or the tree, it's not going to encourage those roots to keep moving out. So we're kind of training our root systems a little bit. Same with water. So after you put a new tree in the ground and you put that little brown hose around it, that's pretty close. 6 months, you want to move it out a little more. A year, you want to move it out a little more, because that'll encourage those roots to continually moving out instead of staying around where only the water is.
Can you talk a little bit about mycorrhizal and how important that is to add to your compost and your
Well, I don't add it to my compost because the compost will build it itself. I only add it to the soil drenching. I don't do it in foliar. There's no need for it. Mycorrhizae is we have it in 2 forms: a concentrate powder that you can mix with liquids, and a granular you can mix directly in the soil. So we're talking about our microbiology, and we're keeping this a very simple, conversation here. We have our bacterial and we have our fungal quality in our soil. When we are bacterial dominant, we tend to be more alkaline in our soils. When we become more equal or fungal dominant, we tend to be a little more acidic, and I want to be on the more acidic side. So bacterial is so hardy, it could survive an ice age. The fungal is so delicate that if you can pull the soil out of the ground and expose it to air and light, it's going to start dying immediately. So we want to build our fungal to balance out our soil quality, that 50-50 or higher. I'd rather be even more fungal. And when we do this, okay, and how we do this would depend on sorry, I lost my thought there. So I apologize. I'm really tired. I went to bed late. Sometimes I do that when you get to my age. Sometimes you do that kind of thing. So we were talking about that balance. Now, when we use the mycorrhizae to build up that fungal and support it, because I'm not disconcerted about the bacterial, but I don't worry about it as much because it's pretty hardy stuff. So once we get that mycorrhizae in there, or start building it and build that living soil, one of the things that I wanted to mention was after we build our living soil and get our plants in, what's the most important thing that we can do to protect our soil?
Mulch.
Thank you very much. Mulching is critical. You can use almost anything you want for mulch. I particularly prefer to use wood chip mulch. Now, what is mulch doing? Well, obviously, it's protecting the moisture in the soil, less evaporation. That's pretty obvious. But it's also a sunscreen. Right now, the UV rays are only 4. It's still early, and it's still springtime. In the summertime here, and I watch all kinds of statistics. On my iWatch, I have my elevation, I have my bricks, my UV level, I've got temperature, I got a few different things. UV levels have been rising for the last 5 to 10 years. Nobody talk. The weatherman doesn't talk about it. We know we're having more hot days, longer hot days than ever before, but also it's that UV ray. So the mulch is a sunscreen to protect. When you have bare soil, and especially in the summer when the UVs are real high, the biology is just getting killed and killed, and the longer it's exposed, the deeper that goes. So the mulch is protecting that. As the mulch decomposes, it's feeding mycorrhizae fungal. When water goes through mulch, it creates humic acid, a building block of soil. So mulching is critical. 2 inches minimum. Don't put it up against the base of a tree or a plant. Keep a few inches open around the base of the plant for air to get through. There are occasions, especially if your crown of your tree is a little too low, and now you put mulch up against it, you could end up with some issues, Fusarium, Phytophthora, certain kinds of problems, rot, all kinds of fungal issues. So it's always important to keep that mulch just a little bit away from the base of the plant. So mulching is just a really important thing for preserving that regenerative living soil.
Now, I just noticed a picture on your LinkedIn page.
Yeah. I just printed this up. This is somebody AI'd this. I really don't know who did it, but I put it up all over social media a few days ago, and everybody's going crazy. So I printed one up, and I'm going to hang it on the wall here in my office.
But when I noticed that, I see all the bare spots where years ago it seemed like our mountains, everything was full of trees, everything was flourishing, but today everything is running off. Now,
well, we've really screwed up as humans on this planet. Not everybody's willing to admit that, but we really did. And that's where we are here in this regenerative movement, permaculture, regenerative ag. I mean, this isn't sustainability. Sustainability, to me, the word, if you look it up, basically means treading water, not sinking. And we don't want to sink any lower, and that's fine. We want to move forward, and that's why I look at the word regenerative as something that we're going to regenerate and move forward. That's kind of how I look at it.
Well, look at the foods we eat, the animals we raise. Everything's backwards.
Yeah.
There's other ways we could feed the world. We have all this land. Utilize the land. Why are we mass producing stuff when we have the spot, we have the space? Use it.
Yeah, well, that's what commercialization of the world has been about. It's not about the nature anymore. It's not about the critters and the plants and everything. It's all about business now. It's about special interests. That's what's really give us the biggest setback we have is special interests. And consensus amongst regular people. Everybody loves these lives they have with all these luxuries and all this stuff they can consume. And, I don't have anything against it, but at least open your eyes up so that you can do it more efficiently and in a little better way. I'm not really against anybody or anything. I just say, hey, let's tweak this a little bit so we can do something a little smarter. It's all common sense.
Yeah.
It's just basic common sense. All of the things that I do in my life. We have a very low carbon footprint. We recycle, repurpose, reuse everything. But because I've been selling biochar for so long and it's carbon negative 3 to 1, the amount of biochar I've sold in the last 15 years, and we're talking about, I could probably fill a stadium with it. That's how much it is. Truckloads every month, at some years. My carbon footprint is extremely low. Okay. Doesn't mean that I don't want to drive an electric car, which I don't at the moment. I want to do everything I can, but right now where I'm sitting, I am a lower carbon footprint than anybody I know because of that work that I've done. And on our own property.
Well, bless you for everything you have been doing for the last 40 years or so. Without people like you, who knows where society will be right now and what our future could be.
I love what I'm doing. I don't do it because I want it for money. I should be retired. But I just can't because I really enjoy doing this. It's a lot of fun, and to see the results in the different properties that I've worked on over the years. My client base is extremely loyal. They come back because I give them the real deal, and I'm very fair about everything that we do. All the products on our website, we've used everything. It's the best stuff we could find for the pricing that people can afford. And we're very proud of that. And this is a fairly new website. We have a couple of issues with it. Just recently, somebody would place an order for an item or an order for several items, and they would click on it, and it would say, "Oh, didn't go through." So they click again. Well, they all went through. We fixed it, but it's our new website. If anybody is in the Southern California area and wants to come by and visit, by all means, I encourage you to do so. If you want to talk with me, I like talking on the phone. If you call me up, I will talk with you. I will help you out in any way I can. If I don't answer, leave a message. You can email me, you can text me, whatever method you like, but you can't duplicate the nuance of a conversation in a text or an email. So that's why conversation is the best way to go. And I encourage people to call me. Most people call me up and they go, "Wow, you really answered." I go, "Of course I answered. I'm here to serve you and help you and change the patterns of what you've been doing so that you can be on a better course."
Definitely. It's amazing how
Anybody know what this means?
People they actually talk.
Anybody know what this means? Petrichor. There's a group called Studio Petrichor. It's a group of friends of mine. They do environmental landscaping. Petrichor is the smell after the rain, that beautiful smell.
And all the carbon and everything.
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Well, Michael, thank you so much for coming on, and I hope to have you on again because we got a lot.
Listen, we have barely touched the surface of what I'd like to do. You have more questions there. Yes. Yeah, I love doing these interviews. I prefer to be on an interview than doing it with just about anything else I do because I can affect more people and share all these experiences because this is all experiential. What I do is I learn from all these great people that, I work with. I mean, the names go on and on. Albert Bates, Kathleen Draper, Kelpie Wilson, Peter Hurst, Matt Powers, Ray Archuleta. I just go on, Elaine Ingham, you name it. And you mentioned Matt Powers, and I just want to give a little plug to Matt because Matt is really one of the great educators of our world. And his online permaculture course is really phenomenal. What I like about it is that he's got 50 different teachers and experts on it. Doesn't mean that when there's only 2 or 3 on a program, it isn't good. just better when you get all these specialized people doing this course. You tend to get a little bit more out of it. So I encourage people to go and take Matt's online permaculture course. Visit my website, watch the videos. If you have any questions, text, email, or call me.
Nice.
That was
So
awesome.
Joe and Corey, when we're done, please send me your home addresses. I got something I want to send you.
Oh,
Cool.
thank you. I really
Yeah.
appreciate it. Michael,
I'm going
stay
to
on
send
for
you
1
some wood
second.
vinegar.
Oh, that's awesome.
You ever use bokashi? Do you ever use bokashi? Do you know what bokashi is?
No.
Bokashi balls.
Where'd you get that from? That's from
Cereal.
Guatemala.
It's from learning from Matt's when he had everybody on.
Right.
That's the first time I
Guatemala
actually
from
heard about it.
Oregon is the guy who started those bokashi balls. He's a great friend of mine too. Yeah, so bokashi is fermented grains.
Mhm.
And basically we use it to accelerate composting, but it's got a lot more uses than that.
Mhm. Oh, definitely. Well, thank you so much, Michael. I don't
Thanks,
want
man.
we try to keep
Guys.
everything from an hour.
Hey,
sometimes
listen,
a little after.
I'll talk for hours and hours and hours. I'm going to a plant sale in a few minutes nearby.
Perfect
And
time. 63 degrees. Going to get some plants. I can just smell the air right now, saying, "I just want to keep on buying."
awesome. Thank you so very much, man.
Thank you, and thank everybody for
We'll be
coming.
in
Share
touch.
this out if you can.
And don't forget, send me your addresses because I got a gift for you.
Awesome, Michael. Stay on for 1 second.
Sure.
Before I end this. Okay, take care, everyone. We'll see everybody next Saturday at noon. Thank you so much.